You there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Morning.
So we're already recording
Yeah, I can pause it.
the pipeline. And whenever I think about that piece of the pipeline, it's really neat for me to think that young people having a great experience in a disciple trip get the opportunity to extend that and say, I want more, and come through AIM. And then as they go through AIM and have a good experience, they continue on into the school of preaching with an emphasis in family ministry and youth ministry or preaching or missions. And then from that, they are making long-term commitments to the ministries that they're going to be involved in. I had an opportunity to reminisce a little bit this morning on Keith Volpita, or better known as Fuzzy Volpita, and also Caleb Thornton, because they were our first people that went on a disciple trip that went through AIM and then went through the school of preaching. And now we can see them involved in their ministries today. And I just thank God for that. Whenever I think about AIM, because that's what I'm here to talk about this morning, I just think about the numbers of people that are involved with AIM to make it is what it is. And I was thinking about this little bracelet right here. And you may not be able to see it very well from where you are, but it just says, Yo oro por Mexico. And when we were missionaries in Guadalajara, we were in Mexico in a time when things weren't going so well in regards to the drug trafficking and drug lords taking over different parts of the country. And it was really bad for a while. And something came to me of an idea that we could, what is it that we could do to really get the word out about helping with this situation? And it just came to me the idea, we just need to pray. And in that process, I came across a passage in Deuteronomy 4:7 that says, for what great nation is there that has a God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we cry out to him? And so what we ended up doing is we ended up making 10,000 of these little bracelets, and it had the time 4:07. And we started a campaign to get people all over the country of Mexico to begin praying for Christ to reign in Mexico at 4:07 each day. And I remember whenever that box arrived to my house, all it had in was these little things, and it was so heavy because 10,000 of these in a box has a lot of weight. But even the more weight that it has is when we begin to pass those out. And we started out in Guadalajara, and then what I would do is I would travel to different cities. So I would travel to Leon, or I would travel to Mexico City, or I would travel to Cuernavaca, or I would travel to Lázaro Cárdenas, and I would meet with missionaries in those different places and leave them bracelets there, and they would begin spreading the word. And then all of a sudden we had thousands of people praying for Mexico every day at 4:07 because of that passage, Deuteronomy 4:7. And we began to see changes in the country. A fun story was my family, they were visiting the States. I was still in Mexico, and my wife called me and she said, hey, you won't believe this, but we were at Chuck E. Cheese in Amarillo, Texas, and the hostess that set us had one of these bracelets on. And I asked her where that bracelet came from. And she said, well, there was a missionary in Cuernavaca, Mexico named Ricardo Reyes that gave it to me, and we've been praying for Mexico every day at 4:07. And it just reminds me that for something big to take place and you have thousands and thousands of people involved, it just is the simple thing of just getting people involved. And whenever I think about AIM, I think we have a great ministry, and I think the greatest thing that we need right now is just more students. We need more workers for the harvest. Whenever I talk to the Aimers about imagining me being a really great speaker and I'm in a congregation of 5,000 people, that sounds pretty impressive on human terms. But whenever we talk about reaching this world for Christ, we would need thousands more of somebody with a congregation of 5,000 to reach this world for Christ. But whenever we have people buying into the principle of discipleship, and just each person knowing it's their responsibility to share the gospel, and then it begins to multiply instead of addition. And so I want to share a little bit with you of just what inspires me about AIM. And so I'm going to share my screen right here, and I'm going to take us to a video, and then we'll talk a little more. So let me share this with you, and then we'll continue on.
I wanted to take my faith seriously. I really wanted to be around people that want that too.
To make my faith stronger and get closer to God.
I grew up on an AIM field. All of it at the end of the day, even as a little girl, inspired me to want to do that. They not only impacted me, they impacted the people there in Mexico.
I really wanted to be a missionary, but I didn't really have the knowledge that I needed. I mentioned it to my preacher, he looked at me and he said, "Why don't you do AIM?" And I said, "What's AIM?" It was everything that I had been looking for.
AIM has completely changed my outlook on life. It took me from just believing in God and having him be a part of my life to him enveloping my entire life. And it really helped me see the purpose of the church, to bring the kingdom of God here on earth as it is in heaven.
What AIM teach me, or is teaching me, is to trust in him, to abide in him, and to love his people.
Just the amount of dedication I should have had for God in the first place. Dedicating your life to God is just something so different, something so fulfilling. You're living your life for God.
Realized a lot of places where I just needed to get out of my comfort zone, where I needed to change completely, and that's been definitely a stretching process, but it's been invaluable. You learn from literally the beginning of the Bible to the end of the Bible, the love story of God to his people. AIM just gives you the words and the tools to use in order to define who you are in Christ.
Making my faith my own. It has impacted my heart so much. We took a class of the book of Luke. I felt like I was meeting Jesus all over again, and I have been a Christian my entire life. It's just something I will never lose the feeling of. I'm constantly just inspired by Jesus and his story and the things that he did to want to go out and do that all over the earth, even where I'm at right now.
AIM helped me solidify my foundation in Christ so that I can go into the future with confidence. AIM has been one of the best experiences of my life. Over the past 2 years, God has really transformed who I am.
Well, I think you recognized a few people that you know. That video was made by Ben Rader and Carson Tate, who are in the School of Preaching right now. And it just is a reminder to me, and even thinking about Bob Turner, something he said about last week about why we don't have leaders for this upcoming generation, is that the older generation hasn't turned responsibilities over to the younger generation. And whenever I think about something beautiful that we have to offer and AIM to the kingdom of God, is young people. And we have an opportunity to invest in them and put them in an environment where they can focus on their relationship with God, where they can grow in their knowledge of the word, but they can also be trained to share the gospel and learn lifelong service into his kingdom. And that's one of the things that I wanted to emphasize this morning is, on this connection right now, there's about 50 people that are connected just on their screens alone. That what would it be like if just each screen said, I'm going to invite one person to come to AIM next year? And as we work in this ministry, I think about the opportunities of just even that pipeline that I talked about earlier about what is Fuzzy doing right now? Well, he's actually ministering in Seattle area, and Jeff, as it does full circle, Jeff takes a disciple trip this last year to Seattle, and Fuzzy's working there, who his beginning was there on a disciple trip. I think about just the transformation that has taken place in my life as I was an AIM student back in 1996 in Moscow, Russia. And one of the things that it did for me whenever I came into the School of Preaching is that it gave me something, as all of my instructors in the School of Preaching would be teaching things about ministry, it gave me something to hang those things on because of ministry experiences I had 2 years previously working in Moscow. This right here is our website. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to look at this, because as you share with others about AIM, this would be a great place for you to go, because it shares all kinds of information about AIM. One of the things that I really like about AIM now is we have our entire application process done, where you can do everything but the medical form online. And so if you see where I'm over here on apply, if you're at a youth event, or you're talking with somebody at a congregation that you're visiting, and you think that AIM would be a good place for them, all you have to do is just send them to our website, and they could go to apply and instantly apply there. If you're like, well, maybe they just need to know a little more about what AIM is, then you could take them to this info page. They fill that out really quickly, and within that week, Barb will send them a packet that just talks all about AIM, and then we will be in contact with them to be able to talk to them about everything that is going on in AIM. It's amazing to me to think about how much AIM has evolved over the years. Whenever you think about that first group that started back in 1973, one of the things, and it was emphasized at our alumni cookout just last week, is that AIM was initiated by young people. A lot of times we think that there was this really smart director that said, man, we need to start a ministry that is going to reach out to our youth, and we'll send those youth all into the world. But really, it didn't happen that way. It was 16 young adults back in 1973 who actually came to the elders here at Sunset and said, we want to help this missionary in Dublin, Ireland. Will you help us? And so it wasn't the elders going to the youth, it was the youth going to the elders. And I think to myself, how powerful is it, and how often do we not take advantage of the enthusiasm and the initiative and the motivation of our young people to be equipped and trained to go into this world and share the gospel? And so I am looking at this new class that we have of 35, and it makes me think, what are these young men and women going to be doing 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And I happen to believe that they will look back 20 years from now at the great things that they're doing in the kingdom, and they'll say, it all started because I went into this ministry called AIM. AIM, as it first started, and it was a blessing as we had opening chapel to meet with a family that was in the very first AIM class. And it was interesting to think that they didn't even call it AIM until after they were in Ireland. I think it was called the Dublin, Ireland Initiative when they were studying here in Lubbock. And then after they arrived to Dublin, Ireland, they said, we didn't hear it called AIM until after we were in Ireland. But this passage in Ephesians 3:20, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, I see that passage alive, because these young people, all they wanted to do was just go to Dublin, Ireland one time and serve God. And that is noble, and that's a fantastic thing. And God said, you know what I'm going to do with that? I'm going to even make that incredibly larger and bigger than you could ask or imagine. And so they came back, and it was a success, and they said, well, why don't we do it again? And so they did it again. And then afterwards they said, well, what if we went to multiple countries? And so then they did that as well. And then almost 50 years later, we're at a place where we've sent over 1,000 to the mission field, and we have sent them to 48 different countries and almost 200 different mission points. And I'm like, wow, isn't that amazing? But then I think back to even the illustration of 6, now 7 billion people in the world. That doesn't even put a dent in what we need to do to reach this world for Christ. And so as we have this ministry, I want to emphasize again, the greatest need that we have is just more workers for the harvest. And just as we prayed every day in Mexico at 4:07, I want to encourage you guys to pray every day at 10:02. And the reason why I'm saying 10:02 is Luke 10:2 says, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore, ask the Lord of the harvest to send forth workers into the harvest field. And I just think, what if something amazing happened, just like we saw in the early 2000s, whenever we had this little bracelet right here, that ended up going out to thousands and thousands of people. And we were able, in a very short amount of time, to see the amazing things that God had done. What would happen if all of us committed to pray every day at 10:02 to the Lord of the harvest to send forth workers? And we would do two things. One is, if I'm going to say that prayer, then I'm committing to be a worker in the harvest as well. But also, I'm not just going to be praying to the Lord of the harvest to send forth workers. I'm going to be looking for workers. And I think about their power, the power that's in numbers. And how powerful would it be if each of us that are even on this video call right now just committed to say, I'm going to bring one person to AIM next year? How powerful would that be, that this class of 35 that we're really excited about, imagine a class of 70. And I think that it is possible through prayer and through all of us working together. Speaking of working together, AIM is not a one-man show. And so I'm very grateful for the different people that are able to work with me in this ministry. Pat has been working in this ministry for longer than I have. And he serves now as our advancement coordinator. And as Pat works as our advancement coordinator, there's two big focuses that he's involved in right now. One is what we're calling AIM ambassadors. And he contacts people all throughout the United States that love AIM, and they're going to be good voices and good spokesperson people for AIM. And he goes in and he meets with them. They make a commitment that they're going to be promoting AIM for us. And then he develops the resources and the tools that they need, like videos and PowerPoints and things like that, that they need to be able to present AIM all across the country. This is a new initiative that we have. And so I would ask that you keep this in your prayers. But I see the potential of us not being able to go everywhere, but if we have ambassadors all across the United States, what is the amazing impact that this could have as they send more workers to work with us? Another thing that Pat is really focused on right now in his role as advancement coordinator is our alumni. Right now, we just have more and more alumni, and we really, and I think it was a mistake that we're improving, is we really kind of put our alumni on a back burner. And it wasn't because we wanted to, it was because we had so many other things going on that we'll get to that whenever we can. And finally, we came to a place that said, you know what, we need to put that on the front burner, because there is just such an emphasis of ministry and also opportunity to reach out if we really have an emphasis on our alumni. And so that's really Pat's really big focus is as he works with AIM outside of the classes that he teaches to the AIMers. And then another blessing that we have in our ministry is Robbie Stevens. He works as our staff coordinator. And one of the things that we're always doing in AIM is we're always seeking ways to improve. And one of the things that happened years ago is a thing was introduced to AIM when Rex Boyles was the director of AIM, called the AIM assistant. And what the AIM assistant is somebody who has gone through AIM, somebody who did well on their field and finished well, and they come back and they come to invest in this present AIM class, and they're a little bit ahead of those AIMers. They know the experiences, they know the trials, they know what the AIMers need to know to be able to have a successful time on their mission field. And so what they do is they invest in those AIM students. Robbie is over organizing everything that the AIM assistants need so that they can do their job well. And he's been a huge blessing. And then, of course, we have Barb that works with us. And the joke, which I don't necessarily see it as a joke, we say she's the real director of AIM, because if she disappeared, I think just a lot of the behind the scene things would just disappear around here. And so I am so grateful for Pat. I'm so grateful for Robbie. I'm so grateful for Barb. I'm so grateful for our AIM assistants. And that's just what we work with here in Lubbock. But that is what makes AIM the experience and the adventure that we want it to be for so many people as they come into this ministry. Just to close out in this time, this website, you go to it, it's aim.sunset.bible. And Chris Hayes helped design that. In fact, he designed it. And it is going to be a great tool for us that whenever you're out on a campaign or you're visiting with a youth group, this is just instant access for you to be able to share about AIM, even if you don't know very much. If you want them to know a little bit about AIM, you just click on this about, and you can just scroll down and you can see the beginnings of AIM. You can see where we're located. You can see the different fields that we're involved in. You can see the different workers. If you want to know about training, this right here, it goes to, and we have little videos that have been developed so that it can explain a little bit more about what training is. If you want to know stories, we're going to be updating these really regularly. These are all present aimers on the field, coordinators that are on the field. You can go to that and just see different opportunities of that, different resources. So if you go to resources here, you can see our frequently asked questions. You can see how to raise support. So if somebody's like, well, how do I raise support? Even if you're not able to talk to us, you're able to go there for those resources. Somebody who wants to know info about AIM, they just fill this out right here. And as soon as they have it filled out, they hit enter, and that comes directly to us. And then we're able to get in contact with them. The same thing with this application. You click apply, and here's all the different paperwork that's needed for the application list. And you click on those and send it, and it comes straight to us. And so as I close out with what we're doing here this morning, AIM is just a piece of SIBI, but this piece, it has an opportunity to affect future students that go into the School of Preaching as well. And we're great spokespersons. We're great spokespeople for SIBI as a whole. And whenever we're out on the road, we're promoting disciple trips, we're promoting family and youth, we're promoting preaching, we're promoting the missions track. And we would ask the same from all of you as you are on the road to put in a good word for AIM, because it is an opportunity for us to raise up more workers into the harvest. So I'll turn it back over to Paul now.